The NCAA tournament is nicknamed March Madness, and this year, 2021, is madness enough in the whole world. But the brackets, the tournaments have lived up to that nickname for sure this year. It's so many upsets that I don't know which one to point out first. But I know that my guys, they know. So I'm going to ask you guys, what was the biggest upset in the tournament this year?
For me, this pains me to say, as a fan of the Texas Longhorns, they pretty much got upset by Abilene Christian, and we're talking about a team that won that conference. I didn't necessarily see Texas falling to Abilene Christian, especially in the way that they did. You lost at the free throw line. It's pretty much what it was. Andrew Jones, who is a phenomenal player, has a phenomenal comeback story, and was able to finish out this season. Hit a clutch 3-pointer to put them back into the game, but this game should have never gotten out of hand for Texas. He put them back in the lead, and they came down and made a foul that was probably, it was a terrible foul, but it was pretty much inevitable that it was going to happen in the paint anyway. And Abilene Christian nailed those 2 free throws, and that's all she wrote.
The biggest upset for me was kind of bittersweet because one, it was the Texas one because I'm a Texas fan. But number 2 was because I was actually going to predict this upset. So I'm going to give a little story. When I was making my brackets, I make my brackets 2 hours before tip-off of March Madness. And Oral Roberts was going against Ohio State. And to preface, the best game of baseball ever played was on Oral Roberts campus. And I was like, you know what? Oral Roberts is going to win. I just feel it. Called my dad. He was like, Oral Roberts is not losing to Ohio State. And there we go. Oral Roberts won it, and they're going to the Sweet 16. So I got to say, Oral Roberts was the biggest upset. Obviously, they're a 15th seed. But come on now, the best player for Ohio State must have missed like 3 shots in a row. That was crazy to me. I never thought that was going to happen. I honestly had Ohio State on my bracket winning because of my dad, and I was still rooting for Oral Roberts. So that's got to be my number 1 upset for March Madness.
My number 1 upset was the Texas and Abilene game. And it's funny because I actually called it. I put it in the Twitter chat. Darian, I don't know if you remember or not, but I said it the day before the game. Abilene Christian is going to defeat Texas. And I saw it coming. I still took Texas on my bracket because I just couldn't take Abilene over Texas in the bracket. But I called the upset. But the reason it's my number 1 upset is because the game didn't go out the way I thought it would. I thought if Abilene defeated Texas, it would be kind of a high-scoring game, maybe in the high 60s, low 70s, because Abilene in their conference, they average 78 points per game. I watched them all season. They have a very good conference with Sam Houston over there, Nicholls State, Stephen F. Austin, some very good teams over there in their conference. And they were able to put up points over there. So I thought that would translate in the game against Texas, but that wasn't the case. It was a low-scoring game, 53-52. And Texas just didn't take advantage. They turned the ball over 23 times. It was 1 point in the second half where Abilene went 5 minutes without scoring, and Texas only put up 4 points during that span. They just didn't take advantage of it, turned the ball over, didn't take advantage of their opportunities, and they let Abilene hang around. And when you let inferior teams hang around, they're going to come back and they're going to get you every single time. And that was the prime example right there. So that's my number 1 upset.
Yeah, I thought those were some interesting ones. You point out, both of you, Mia and Tramel pointed out Texas versus Abilene Christian. But I have another interstate upset that I thought was pretty interesting. I want to know what you guys thought about that. And that was Loyola Chicago knocking off Illinois. I thought that was a huge upset that you guys didn't bring up. Like I said, it was so many of them. What did you guys think about that Loyola versus Illinois game?
I think Loyola has been pretty good the past few seasons, and for whatever reason, they're still slept on. But that's not a team that you necessarily want to underestimate this early in the tournament, and I think they pretty much proved that.
Yeah, and for me, honestly, Texas and Illinois were my championship in my bracket, so I'm down bad. But Loyola Chicago, we should know that. You know what I mean? They had the Cinderella story the other year, and then you knew they were going to be a little better this year. And come on now, and it's interesting about Texas and Illinois. Both of them were hot coming into the tournament, and obviously they were just underestimating their opponents, and that's just classic March Madness.
Yep, and you know my love for Illinois, Darian. You know, this is my first year actually just following them and watching them. I love Kofi Cockburn. I love IU DeSumo. I love those guys. Those are my favorite players in college, or two of my favorite players in college this season. And it kind of hurt watching them exit early because I had them in my final going against Gonzaga in my bracket, but that wasn't the case. But Loyola, I wasn't too surprised about it because I've been paying attention to them this season. They only have one loss this season, and that came against Drake, which was another ranked team at the time and a team that actually made the NCAA tournament as well. And the only reason they lost that game is because it was a back-to-back. So they pretty much went undefeated the entire season. And I knew they had a chance against Illinois. I didn't think they were going to pull it off, but like you said, Illinois, they underestimated Loyola, and Loyola took advantage of it, and they didn't take their feet off the gas.
Not at all. It's been a tough year for the Big Ten. A lot of those schools, a lot of promise coming in, not a lot of promise going out, however. But we'll see what happens. We'll see how it all ends out. But those are our biggest upsets. Let me know what you got down below. Is it Loyola versus Illinois? Is it Texas versus Abilene? Is it Oral Roberts versus Ohio State? It's a lot of interesting prospects out here for them. I want to know what you guys are thinking. Let me see what's in that brain right there. Let me know what y'all thought. But y'all know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. The SOS Discussions. We'll see y'all next time.